I expect we are. I think the growth is modest, to be honest. And I think principally we're now actually touching the barriers and the boundaries of our own growth model. So we'll really have to look at productivity growth to have growth also in the years ahead, because we have big labor scarcity, no people to do the green transition, for example. So modest growth.
Inflation is going in the wrong direction according to the latest figures. We saw 3.1% in March compared to previously 2.8% in February. Why is it such a bumpy road for inflation from here?
Yeah, I think it's still also the backlash of the energy crisis. We see it took quite a while for wages to adjust, so now you see wages rising. Many people had strong decline in purchasing power because we are very dependent on energy from abroad, while prices spiked. So it takes time for wages to adjust, and it takes time for inflation to go down. So I hope also that the European Central Bank, like other central banks, won't declare victory on the inflation too soon, because when you don't do that too quickly and you lower interest rates too quickly, and then inflation sticks up its ugly head again. So I really hope they are a bit on the safe side, caution there, because in the Netherlands, as you say, it's still too high.
The message from a lot of the Governing Council to me here at the IMF Spring Meetings is that June is in sight in terms of beginning rate cuts unless something gets in the way. Would June be too early for your economy? Would that keep inflation around?
That's a difficult question. In the end, they're totally independent, the central bankers, and I think that's something that we should cherish. But I think they are also very cautious, and I think that's important. Everybody wants lower interest rates, but only if the economy really is right for it, because otherwise, when in a year ahead we are in the same situation with rising inflation, then we would have tightening required again. That would be very unhelpful. So I hope they're also cautious. I understand there's always pressure on them to lower interest rates, but I really support their line to be also on the strict side there. We really have to tackle inflation first before we can move along.
I want to move on to the geopolitics and trade, because we saw a steep drop in ASML sales this week. The company's size brings implications to your economy. The US is still demanding that ASML stop servicing some of the Chinese equipment sold to them. These restrictions are designed to slow China's chip ambitions and its technology aspirations. Is it essential that you comply?
I think yes, we are in good cooperation also with America and with ASML on the issue. And like you rightly say, ASML is one of the crown jewels of the Dutch economy. They are really one of the bases of our growth model. So we want to support them. We actually help them to grow in the Netherlands. And I think there's a great future for them ahead, also complying with all the rules that are on the table.
Mario Draghi was spelling out this week that the US and China are not playing by global rules. If that is the case, and China, for one, is not playing by the global rules, isn't there pressure on you to bring them to account to ensure that they're not getting their hands on certain chips?
There is, of course, always a debate on what you can export and what you can't. We are in constant talks with both the US and ASML on that. But I think in general, when we look at the world economy, we should make sure everybody plays by the same rules. But my main worry now actually is fragmentation. We're a very small, open economy, and we have everything to lose with getting more fragmentation in the world economy. So I really hope we can prevent that. And at the same time, of course, from security concerns, we have to look also at China and make sure that they play like the same rules that we all do.
If we are seeing rising protectionism elsewhere from two major economic powers, is it only a matter of time before Europe gets dragged into some form of a trade war?
I think that would be, I really hope we can avoid that. That's not the way I see it. I think there's a lot of cooperation. Sometimes that goes smoothly, sometimes with a bit of a hiccup. But I think we're fortunately far away from that. But there are global tensions. We see it everywhere in the world. Also at the borders of Europe and in Israel, Gaza, and with the Ukraine situation, with the aggression war of Russia. So that I think also is a really downward risk in the global economic outlook.
When it comes to ASML, can I just be clear about the threat of them walking away? I mean, the company's rowed back from that position, but is it a genuine threat? I mean, where else would they go?
Well, I think many countries would love to welcome ASML, but I think they're strongly embedded in the Netherlands. The debate the cabinet had with them the last month, I was closely involved, was about actually their plans to grow in the Netherlands and whether there were enough roads and enough houses and enough skilled people from abroad. So I'm very optimistic about the ASML future and that it will be within the Netherlands.
Is the Netherlands, though, losing some of its appeal for multinationals? There was a strong showing for the far right at the recent election. Corporation taxes have risen, there's been protests, the likes of Shell have been in the courts. Is there a need for the Netherlands to think about remaining business friendly?
I think every country has to, every now and then, look, are we still friendly enough for business? At the same time, we have still lots to offer. We're an open economy, we have the Haber of Rotterdam, we have Schiphol Airport with the great international connections. So I know many companies are very happy within the Netherlands, but there are challenges, absolutely. For example, the shortage of labor is a serious issue. If you want to invest in the Netherlands, you want to make sure that there are high-skilled workers available. So that for me would be the main worry. Not even the taxes, but the scarcity of labor.
How worried are you about the war in Ukraine at this point? Because we are seeing that there are roadblocks to funding in the United States. One central banker told me here that if Europe starts to perceive that there is a position where Ukraine is going to lose the war, that could impact growth in Europe, could impact sentiment, it could impact confidence. So how concerned are you about the war in Ukraine at this point?
I'm extremely concerned because I'm absolutely convinced that the war in Ukraine, the aggression of Russia, it won't stop in Ukraine. So there's no alternative for Ukraine winning the war. That's the reason why the Netherlands, I think we're one of the biggest donors and supporters of Ukraine. They're also part of our IMF and World Bank constituency. And even last week, again, we added almost 4 billion euros of military aid because there's simply no alternative to backing Ukraine against the aggression from Russia. And it's in our European interest. It's very close by. And if you give in to Putin, he won't stop. And I think history is very clear on that lesson. And I hope everybody, also other countries, not only Europe, also the US, knows that, recognizes that, and also that the aid package will pass Congress smoothly.
Do you agree that there would be huge negative sentiment for Europe if Ukraine were to lose the war?
Definitely. It would bring Russia closer. I think it's an unthinkable scenario for me. Impact on energy prices, on food security, but also on the fact that if we have an aggressor at the boundaries of Europe which wins, it always makes sure that the aggressor will come back. And we have the Baltic states, there are many countries which are really concerned with this war, and the Netherlands is strongly behind Ukraine. And fortunately, the whole Dutch population is also doing that.
I want to ask you about the formation of a government. The far-right Geert Wilders has acknowledged that he won't be leading a government. Coalition talks, I gather negotiations are taking place. How far progressed are they, and when could we see the formation of a government?
Very good question. I hoped you had the answer. My party is not part of the negotiations. It's taking quite long. I hope they speed up because after elections you need a new government. Even though my party will not be in it, you have to do something with the democratic outcome. It's now almost 6 months. They are not very close to a solution if you read the papers, but hopefully they'll proceed so that really before summer there will be a new cabinet in place.